can't tell you that much about him. He was raised in Texas. He was the second youngest of 5 children. He grew up on a big farm without a mother. There were very few pictures of him as a boy. In fact, I never think of him as ever being a child. Even when we lived in the same house, I knew very little. He did the regular stuff. You know, he fixed things, and he ate our food when we couldn't. And most nights, he read the paper after coming home from work. Then there were the other things, like how he tried unsuccessfully to instill the fear of God in me, the murderous twitch under his left eye when he got angry. What did you say? I better not hear you. Ooh. Or those tacky polyester pants from the 70s that he still insists on wearing. It happened quite by chance that I was given the opportunity to know him. He called me out of the blue and wondered if I was interested in going up to a timeshare in Wisconsin. You know, I was skeptical. You know, it was comfortable, this anger we had between each other. The hatred that I had nurtured for him my entire life was so huge. It lived outside of me. It was my twin, my protector. Not against just him, but everyone. But there were things that I needed to know. Things to be worked out. So I agreed to go. After years of struggling, it came down to 3 days. And it was over. I had found him. I found my father. On the way to Wisconsin, I stared at the back of his head. I stared at the hair that was my hair and listened as he made small talk with his wife. Whew. Travel always makes me sleepy. It makes me yearn for a place that's quiet and familiar inside of myself. But my escape was not so easy. She was there waiting for me. I recognized my intruder all too well. It was me, the one that wanted me to remember why I was there. He has hurt you in the past, and he will hurt you again. The pain, the suffering, don't forget. As I was being prepared for battle, I saw Love, standing in the corner whispering, "Don't worry, Love won't leave you. Love will stay by your side." "Enough," she said. "It wasn't love that has brought you here. It wasn't love that's protected you all these years. It was me. If I die, you die." Whew. She was right. I'd never lived without her before. If she went, I would die. So I turned my back on love, and I allowed her to breathe fear and anger into me. By the time we got to the condo, I had already fought 10,000 battles with him. And I noticed by the way he unpacked our things from the trunk, he was pretty uneasy about this weekend too. He seemed uncomfortable in his kindness, his face unsure as he tried to smile at his daughter, who was a stranger, his daughter from the enemy camp. I watched him as he played with his 3-year-old son. I saw the way he cared for him in a way he never had a chance to care for me. My father was a shift man, working late evenings, early mornings, sometimes sleeping in the afternoon. You know, we would watch him from the bedroom doors, the frame holding 3 small faces peering in to watch their father sleep. And my mother made sure that we were quiet, so we tried not to yell or scream or stray too far from the house. I must admit, I was jealous of this 3-year-old. I was jealous of this boy. It was the time they had together that I felt cheated out of. But I couldn't blame this boy, this child. He was teaching him how to be a good father. He was teaching him how to care for something small and delicate outside of himself. That night, I left them chasing the toddler around and around the dining room table, his shrill laughter following me into sleep. And my dreams were visions of my life with my dad. There we are. I forgot about that. He took me out and we went on a bike trip. That was the only one time. Oh, I'm a small child. I can see myself in his arms. He's carrying me in from the car, even though he knows I'm just pretending to sleep. There he is, and he's walking toward me. He's singing. It sounds just like Elvis. Your memory stray to a bright, sunny day when I kissed you and called you sweetheart. Do the chairs in your parlor seem empty and bare? Do you stare at your doorstep and picture me there? Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? You know, I used to play that song when I was a little girl. And my parents were fighting, and I would pretend that it was my dad, not Elvis, singing me that song. And I would sit, and I would stare at the door, and I would wait for him to come home. But in this dream, he was there. He had things to tell me. He said, you know, there were times I was wrong. I wanted to be there, but I didn't know how, and I thought, whoa. The tears just started falling because this is the man who was my dad. This was my father. And the tears became like a soup in my mouth, like an ocean in my hair, and then he was gone. I saw myself nervously pacing back and forth. You got too close. It's not time. Where is he? I said. He's gone. But he was just here. We were talking. Look. I took care of him. He's dead. To you, he's dead. Got it? I could let him live, I said. And my twin stared at me and said, then you would have to let me go. And I won't let that happen. And in her affectionate way, she closed her hand around my throat and strangled the breath out of me in little gasps. And as my knees started to buckle, I saw Love standing in a corner, showing me a way out. Love said, go. Don't worry, Love won't leave you. Go. Go and find your father. And I started to run, and I felt the wind against my cheeks. And in the distance, a house, a small box filled with light. And I ran to the door, but it was locked, and the windows were all locked. But I heard music. Music that made me feel lonely, and then there he was. My father, walking around in his robe and his slippers, and I called out, Dad, Dad, they told me you were dead. And he laughed, and he said, no, honey, I'm not dead. I'm right here. And the house disappeared, and he was standing before me, this man that I didn't know this man. I mean, he didn't raise me. He looks the same, but there's something different. And then it hit me that all these years of hatred and pain, and we were building our footpath toward each other because we had found our way. And this man smiled at me, this man who would become my father, and said, just like Love, I've been here all along. Thank you.
Super.